Massively multiplayer online role-playing games, otherwise known as MMORPGs, is a genre of video games or web browser-based game in which a large number of users interact with each other within a virtual world. Besides the sheer number of players, the other main feature is the concept of a persistent world, usually hosted by the game's publisher, which continues to exist and even evolve even when the player is offline and not logged onto the system. Total subscription revenues has exceeded billions of dollars annually, and tens of millions of players are clocking billions of hours weekly in gameplay. Social commentators dream of harnessing the productivity within the virtual world to improve the world we live in, but could online gaming really make a better world, or will it just remain a fantasy? Chen Yanheng, an American game designer, is also an advocate for the use of mobile and digital technology to channel positive attitudes and collaboration into a real-world context. An often reported success story involves Gamer in Folded, an online game that allows players to collaborate and compete to predict the structure of protein molecules. They managed to predict the structure of a protein-cutting enzyme from an AIDS-like virus in 3 weeks, using a collaboration of their spatial reasoning ability, something that stumped scientists for more than a decade. Does this pave the way for more contributions by virtual gamers in the real world? World of Warcraft, an MMORPG created by Blizzard Entertainment back in 1994, is the most subscribed game with 7 million players currently. Players and creators alike have waxed lyrical about how the game's virtual world of Azeroth captivates clans and mobs, allowing them to collaborate seamlessly on their way to an epic win and an endorphin rush. The satisfaction from this so-called gamer's high is only possible with the collaborative effort of all players, and it is the compelling reason why many players would sacrifice sleep and work for accomplishment and recognition only in the virtual world. If we could tap into this source of productivity, a whole host of real-life problems will be solved in a small window of time. However, delving deeper into the characteristics of an online game, a few major problems do arise. Firstly, the complexity of the real world is difficult to replicate within the framework for a virtual game. In the binary world, choices are finite and outcomes are limited. Your makeshift gang either defeats or get defeated by mini-bosses along the way before meeting the final boss. Every member of the party gets predetermined rewards based on each scenario, which serves as a strong motivation to press on despite multiple failures. Once your bunch of wizards, archers and ninjas face a real-world situation, it is a whole new ball game together, even with the assumption that there are no technology, language or cultural hindrance. How do we even know that there is an end to this situation or mission? How do we know that we have succeeded? How can we be sure that our missteps and mistakes do not affect the game and the outcome? The reason why an online game captivates stems from the satisfaction when we solve a problem set by the game developers. There is a fixed solution. If there is a fixed solution for a real-world problem modeled into an online game, would it not be a problem in the very first place? Secondly, MMORPGs like MapleStory allows its players to display various cartoonish faces in a bid to portray emotions. Indeed, this is a nice touch to allow interacting players to better know the moods of each other. But the effects of emotions in an online game is largely reduced. You cannot run faster or slower when you are excited or angry, neither will the boss have more hit points when you get frustrated. Other non-relevant issues, not programmed into a virtual world, do not affect the outcomes. However, removing factors such as human irrationality and sentiment as we design an MMORPG based on a real-life situation will yield solutions that will definitely need a whole lot of effort to refine and use. Most importantly, the draw of an online game is most strongly attributable to the unrealistic nature of the storyboard. In fact, the further away from reality, the higher the propensity for players to immerse themselves in gameplay. Who wouldn't like flying and teleporting around while wielding unimaginable strength? Many players choose to escape into a fantasy world as a form of relaxation, and incorporating too many real-world elements into games may not draw in the crowds in the very first place. Ultimately, MMORPGs do improve communication, spatial reasoning, teamwork, and other skills in the virtual world. The first hurdle is to recognize that many of these skills may not be perfectly transferable from the virtual to the real world. For example, communication in a chat box is vastly different from communication face to face. The second hurdle will be the difficulties fitting a real-world problem into the framework of an online game. The final and greatest hurdle, I believe, will be to maintain the motivation amongst players even when the nature and content of the games become reflective of real life. In conclusion, online gaming can make a better world, but to a very limited extent. Thank you.